Everything you think you know about Shivaratri is probably just the beginning of the story. For millions, it's one of the most sacred nights of the year, a night of stillness, devotion, connecting with Shiva. But what if that understanding, the one we all have, is just the cover of the book? What if it's the simplified summary of something much older, much wilder, and way more profound? See this? It's a small booklet printed in Srinagar back in 1969. Looks like a simple prayer book, right? Well, it's not. It's a key. A key to a version of Shivaratri so different it might as well be from another reality. And it's going to force us to question pretty much everything.
So the first crack in what we know as time itself, we call it Maha Shivaratri, the great night of Shiva. One night, a single powerful vigil of fasting and chanting. But this book, it talks about something completely different. It describes not a night, but a journey, a huge, immersive festival that goes on for 2 full weeks and then culminates in that great night. I mean, think about that. Not a single sprint of devotion, but a marathon of spiritual alignment. So you have to wonder, right? How does a whole fortnight of ritual get squeezed down into just one single evening? What did we lose when that happened?
The second crack is, what are we even worshipping? Close your eyes and picture a Shivaratri puja. You see the Shivalinga, don't you? Of course you do. That ancient symbol of the formless divine, bathed in milk, covered in flowers, it's the centerpiece. But this book from Kashmir, it points our attention to something almost shockingly normal. A pot. A simple clay or metal pot filled with water. And walnuts. Yeah, walnuts. What possible cosmic secret could a handful of walnuts hold that would make them the center of this ancient ceremony instead of the Shivalinga? It feels like a riddle.
And now, the biggest piece of the puzzle. In its oldest Kashmiri form, this festival isn't even called Shivaratri. It's called Harath. It's a name most of us have probably never even heard. And a different name always means a different story. It means a different origin, a different philosophical DNA. It's like a signpost pointing us away from the familiar path and toward a history that's been hiding in plain sight. This isn't just a regional name change. It's a clue that we're dealing with a totally different way of seeing the universe.
So all this sets up our investigation. This isn't just about history. It's a mystery. And to solve it, there are 3 big questions we have to answer. First, if this Harath tradition was so deep and so expansive, why did it pretty much vanish? How is this knowledge lost? Second, deep inside this book, there's a name that pops up again and again right at the center of the main ritual. Vatuk. Who or what is the Vatuk, and what is its secret? And finally, the biggest question of them all. What earth-shattering truth about the very nature of reality was this ancient ceremony trying to show us? Okay, let's begin.
Let's go back to the source, this booklet from 1969. You know, it's easy to look at it and assume it was printed for a big, thriving community, like a happy guide to a beloved holiday. But when you actually read the preface, a completely different feeling hits you. It's a feeling of urgency, of anxiety even. You realize this isn't a celebration. It's a warning. It's a time capsule, a desperate attempt to preserve something by a community that felt its deepest truth just slipping away.
The authors use these exact words, and you can almost hear their voices. They write, "khub ho rahe hain," which means is becoming extinct. Just feel the weight of those words. This wasn't some academic paper. This was a rescue mission. They could see this complex, 2-week-long tapestry of their most important festival being replaced by something simpler, something easier. They weren't just writing down prayers. They were trying to bottle lightning before the storm passed for good. They knew exactly what was at stake. And this is the whole point. This is why it matters so much. See, losing a ritual isn't like forgetting a recipe for a holiday dish. It's like losing the key to an entire library of ancient wisdom. The ritual wasn't just a bunch of actions. It was the technology for asking the biggest questions about the universe and where we fit in. So when the ritual dies, the questions themselves are forgotten. The tools to explore certain states of consciousness, to experience certain truths, they just vanish. So, as we go deeper into this, just remember this one thing. The people who wrote this book, they believed they were saving more than just a tradition. They were fighting to save a sophisticated, multi-layered piece of spiritual technology, a technology that was designed to do something absolutely extraordinary, to basically rewire human consciousness and realign it with the total, unfiltered reality of the cosmos. And now, we're going to find out how it worked. Okay, let's dive into the heart of the Hearth Code itself. We're going to break down its core parts. The unique timeline that turns it from a single event into a whole experience, the forgotten story that changes its entire meaning,
and the central mystery that makes it so radically different from the Shivaratri we all know.
First up, the timeline. Forget one night. As this book explains, Herath is a 2-week-long immersive process. It kicks off not with prayer, but with cleaning. The entire home is scrubbed, prepared to become a sacred space. Then, for almost 2 weeks, there are non-stop rituals, building the energy day after day. This all leads up to the 14th night, the Maha Shivaratri, the Great Night, which is the peak of the festival, not the whole thing. And it doesn't even end there. It wraps up on the 15th day with Thanksgiving and sharing prasad, bringing you back into the world. It's not an event. It's a carefully designed journey from the ordinary to the sacred and back again.
And this brings us to the main event. When you look at the real title of the central ritual in this book, it's not Shiva Puja, it's called Vatuk Pooja Vidhi, the method for worshipping Vatuk. And this is where everything flips. For a festival that's supposed to be all about Shiva, the main event is actually named after someone else. So the first, most obvious question is, who is Vatuk? Vatuk is Vatuk Bhairava. And let me tell you, he is not the serene, meditating Shiva you see on Mount Kailash. Not even close. He is Shiva in his most raw, fierce, terrifying, and protective form. Think of him as the ultimate cosmic bouncer. In the story of Herath, which is all about the divine wedding of Shiva and Parvati, Vatuk Bhairava's job is critical. He's the head of security for the most important event in the universe. His whole purpose is to obliterate any force, internal or external, that could mess with the sacred space, making sure the cosmic union happens. Worshipping him first isn't just a good idea, it's essential. The ritual itself is a masterpiece of spiritual engineering. It starts by drawing a mandal, a cosmic map, on the floor. This act literally turns a simple room into sacred ground. Then that kalash, the pot with water and walnuts, is placed right in the middle. It's not just a pot, it symbolizes the entire universe, the womb of creation. And the walnuts? They represent the unmanifested potential of everything. And then the invocation starts. And this part is key. You don't just invite Shiva and Parvati. You welcome their entire wild entourage, the fierce Bhairavas, the troublemaking gunas, the powerful yoginis. Your home becomes a tiny version of the cosmos, just buzzing with every kind of divine energy. These pages just prove that we're not dealing with simple prayers you can recite from memory. This is a dense, complex series of mantras and procedures. What we're really looking at is a precise algorithm. Every Sanskrit mantra, every offering of a certain flower or grain is like a specific line of code in a program, and that program is designed to do one thing: to systematically bridge the gap between the normal, physical space of your home and the secret, timeless space of the cosmos. It's a technology for folding reality.
So this brings us back to that first big question. If this ritual was so profound, so detailed, so spiritually advanced, why did it almost disappear? Why would anyone let go of a map of the universe? Well, the answer is heartbreakingly simple.
Maximalism became a casualty of minimalism. The very thing that made Herath so powerful, its complexity, its 2-week length, its demand for total focus, also made it incredibly fragile. Through decades of social upheaval, financial hardship, and eventually the trauma of displacement, keeping up with such an elaborate tradition became almost impossible. A simpler, one-night version was just easier to remember, easier to perform, easier to keep alive. The deep dive was replaced by the summary.
And that leads us to the most important secret of all, the secret of Vatuk. Why? Why put this fierce, terrifying, intimidating form of the divine at the very center of the most holy celebration? Why not just focus on the peaceful, the benevolent, the auspicious parts? The answer gets to the very heart of this entire lost philosophy.
And here it is, the core revelation. The secret of the Vatuk is that reality is not one-sided. The universe isn't just serene and peaceful. The divine is also fierce, chaotic, disruptive, and destructive. So worshipping Vatuk Bhairava is this courageous act of supreme spiritual maturity. It's a conscious choice to say, I will not turn away from the difficult parts of reality. I won't pretend the terrifying parts of existence aren't also divine. It's about acknowledging that to connect with the whole of reality, you have to be willing to embrace every single part of it. The beautiful and the terrifying, the creation and the destruction, the light and the dark.
So you can see the huge difference, right? The Shivaratri many of us know is mainly a devotional act from Puranic traditions. The goal is worship over one night.
But Kashmiri Hirath, which comes from Tantra, a tradition all about direct experience, is a 2-week metaphysical ritual where the goal is active participation in the cosmic drama. One is about honoring the divine from a distance, the other is about becoming the stage where the divine drama plays out.
It's almost like we have been mistaking a detailed, multi-layered map of the universe for a simple greeting card. And look, both are nice. The greeting card expresses love and devotion, and that's beautiful. But the map? Well, the map contains the coordinates for a profound journey. It shows you the mountains, the rivers, the hidden caves, and yeah, the terrifying chasms you have to navigate to get to the destination. Both are valid, but they are not the same thing.
Understanding this completely transforms what a ritual even means. It stops being this transactional thing where you're asking for blessings, for health, for wealth, for favors from some distant god. It becomes a conscious, deliberate act of aligning your own little existence with the fundamental rhythms of the cosmos. You're not just a spectator hoping for a good outcome. You are an active participant in the eternal wedding of consciousness and energy. You are helping the universe happen. So, what's the ultimate takeaway from all this? This little booklet from 1969 is so much more than a historical artifact. It's a message in a bottle, sent across time, and it's telling us that the most profound, complex, life-altering philosophies are often hiding in plain sight, encoded in the very family traditions and community rituals we are sometimes so quick to dismiss as old-fashioned, superstitious, or just outdated.
Because in the end, true knowledge is never really lost. It can be forgotten, it can be neglected, it can get buried under layers of simplification and hardship. But it doesn't just vanish. The signal is always out there. It just waits patiently, maybe within the pages of an old book on a dusty shelf in your own home, for someone to come along with enough curiosity and courage to tune back in and rediscover it.
And that brings the question right back to you. The story of Herath isn't just about a festival in Kashmir 50 years ago. It's a mirror. It forces us to ask ourselves, what rituals did my grandparents practice that I just dismissed? What stories did they tell that I thought were just fairy tales? What forgotten maps, what deep spiritual technologies are hiding in my own family's history, in my own culture's memory, just waiting for me to have the eyes to see them and the courage to unroll them?